Hello everyone, good evening from Hoima, Uganda. Good afternoon, good morning all over the world. I'm Mbabzi Violet, broadcasting from Hoima, Uganda. I'm so happy to be a part of the Women's Waiting Daniel Fasting Seminar. Before I go any further, let's have an opening prayer. Lord, our loving Father, I want to thank you for the gift of life. I want to thank you for everything. I want to thank you for the provision. I want to thank you for this program. I want to thank you for this network. I want to thank you for this time you have given me to share with the rest of the world. May your Holy Spirit come and guide us. May your precious blood protect us all. In the mighty name, I pray. Once again, I'm Mbabzi Violet. Praise Jesus to you all, dear sisters. I'm so honored to share with you during this 7th annual celebration of fasting, praying, and sharing. I hold a bachelor's degree in Human Resource Management from Nkumba University. I am a pro-life activist. I defend life in this ministry of sanctity of life. I always defend life from the womb to the tomb. I always support women, especially those in crisis pregnancy. We support the vulnerable children and orphans. We also fight the pandemic of HIV. We further eliminate poverty under different governmental programs. Throughout these years, I developed a passion to serve in this sanctity of life ministry. I personally, I've been a victim. I've been among the marginalized children, being an orphan. Very many challenges have been encountered. Being from a humble family, this inspired me so much to serve the rest of the world, rest of the children, women starving, women in crisis, so that they can have peace, find hope, and have life in its fullness. This is a true testimony. I've encountered Jesus' love, protection, and care through the people of God's will. If it was not Christ's mercy, I wouldn't make it in life. I thank you all. I like serving people. I like God so much. He has been so good to me. He has been so merciful to me. Being a pro-life activist means a lot. That's why I'm here to share with you on our topic, how to help the marginalized during the celebration. Serving the poor, it is an honor to me. Serving the orphans, it is an offer to me. I know what it means being an orphan, being vulnerable. Defending life from the womb to the tomb. I know the value of life. If I was also removed, if I was also aborted, I wouldn't be alive. This is a clear testimony. I come from a humble family, an orphan. However, I have 4 sisters and 5 brothers, and Mom is still alive. I'm so grateful to her. Before I go further, I want to tell you that the Jadeleeorg Pro-Life Ministry was founded by me. It was started in 2016 after realizing that life is precious. Helping the marginalized, it is key, and serving God in His kingdom, it is the most precious thing to share with you. Some of the responsibilities and roles I have in the Jadeleeorg Pro-Life Ministry include: I head all the programs and plans of the Jadeleeorg Pro-Life Ministry. I coordinate with key stakeholders and Secretariat to execute and offer services to the people. Also, I conduct outreaches in churches, schools, communities, as well as supporting the vulnerable children and orphans in different churches. I also head a secretariat that has helped the institution, the ministry, more further. Some of the hobbies: I like singing in church. I like sharing with others, inspiring others. I like interceding for others. I like watching sports and movies. I like traveling to new places and discovering new things. I like making new companies. I like getting new friends. In a special way, allow me to recognize and appreciate dear sister, my inspiration, my mentor, Sister Jadeleeorg, our pastor, our friend, our parent. I'm so honored to be a part of this program. Thanks for the invitation. I felt so happy, I felt so honored when you sent me an email inviting me that to be a part of this sharing, part of learning, part of inspiring. I'm so grateful to you. Thanks for always being so good to me, being so favorable, being considerate. Thanks for inspiring me. Thanks for the training and the award of the certificate under the cohort's global training. So grateful without forgetting the co-founder, Pastor Corile. God bless you, God bless you. In a special way, allow me to mention the following featured speakers. I'm so proud of them. I'm so happy to have met them online. Sister JD, the founder of the Waiting Women Movement and Daniel Fast and Global Seminar. 2. Sister Wanda Malzik, social media influencer, boss mom. 3. Sister Angela Marie Hutchison, Hollywood producer and screenwriter. Number 4. Sister Lavonia Jones, entrepreneur and leadership coach. Number 5. Dr. Kotesha V. Cowan, entrepreneur, author, and philanthropist. Number 6. Dr. Sul Yakub Nyangeyeka, life coach, author, health and wellness coach. Number 7. Sister Penji Smith, Global Moms Community Activist. Number 8. Sister Ebony D. Jones, wife, mompreneur, and author. I'm so glad that I have met you online through Sister JD, our pastor. In our today's sharing, we're going to have a topic stating helping the marginalized around the world. We are going to share focusing on the following questions. Number 1, what does the Bible say about marginalization? We are going to reflect on Isaiah chapter 3, verse 3 to 15. We shall summarize it. God pronounced judgment to the elders and the leaders of God's people for expanding their own wealth by plundering and grinding down the faces of the poor. And the following. The Bible clearly condemns mistreating the vulnerable, the poor, and the marginalized. In our ministry, we need to put this one into consideration. How did Jesus love the marginalized? This is a key question in our daily life, as ministers, as leaders, as activists of life. 1. He created space to listen to these people's lives and needs. It is clear in the Bible. Jesus used to sit with the vulnerable, with the poor, with the sinners, with the sick, to listen to their problems, to counsel them, to share with them, and to instill hope in their life. 2. Jesus did something to help meet their physical needs, often healing people, feeding the hungry and others. This is self-explanatory. When someone has no food, has no capacity to get their personal needs, we need to run to their rescue. We need to come to their rescue. This is very critical as followers of Christ. This is very essential. This is very important. It is compulsory to all who are ministering, to those who are serving. Number 3. Jesus met spiritual needs by sharing truth of the coming Messiah and the kingdom. For instance, he continued and resurrected the dead. For instance, Lazarus. No, we need to put ourselves into those marginalized groups, vulnerable, inferior, minor people, and imagine if I was the one in such situation, how would I feel? We need to comfort them. We need to be with them like how Jesus did. Our second question: the definition of the marginalized person. How can you describe it? In simple terms, it's to put or keep someone in a powerless or unimportant position within a society or group. All marginalized communities are those excluded from the mainstream social, economic, educational, or cultural life. Our second question to focus on: what are the marginalized categories of people? Who are the marginalized categories of people? They include refugees or foreigners. We all know that. The physical and mentally sick, including people struggling with addiction, physical ailments or sickness or disabilities, depression, bipolar disorder, and many others. People living with HIV or cancer, sex workers and LGBT, out of school youth, school dropouts, people living in poverty surrounding the homeless, the orphans, the elderly, the widows, dumped single and expectant moms, girl children during the COVID-19 pandemic that led to the lockdown and closure of schools, the poor working class, and the persecuted people, to mention but a few. Our next question: what are the types of marginalization that exist in a modern world? Marginalization exists in multiple forms and against many groups of people. The main three types include social marginalization, economical marginalization, and political marginalization. Socially, people don't have the same social opportunities as others. They can't go to the same clubs, reasonably access the same shops or services, and they often even live in a segregated, socially excluded communities. This commonly affects ethnic minority groups, and it is often a lifelong marginalization that affects generations of the same family. Political marginalization means that some groups of people are not able to participate democratically in the decision-making process. take an example, ethnic minorities are also at high risk of marginalization. The recent Black Lives Matter protests in the United States and elsewhere happened because Black people are still marginalized in so many countries, and the government simply are not fixing a broken system. For example, the Aroma faced extreme marginalization, forced to live in separate countries without basic utilities or forced to attend certain schools. Another example, one group that making strides to increase its representation in the government is women. Although women are still a minority in houses of parliament across Europe and other countries, but women are still marginalized. Generally, they are expected to oversee domestic duties and childbearing. This makes it more difficult to develop careers and become financially independent. So touching. Our next question: what is the cause of marginalization? I may say, failure to effect the important policies. All societies are, but by those in power. In a democracy, the people get to pick who gets the power to shape our societies, but it is still the case that important policies and decisions will be effected by a secret few. You know what it means. And the further ones from these people, the greater chance there is that their needs will be totally ignored. Think about minority groups. Even in democracies, they often struggle to gain equal access to schools, jobs, or even housing opportunities that would allow them to live in new communities. Our next question of concern: how does marginalization affect society? Marginalization affects society by making it a less equal, stable, and enjoyable place to live in. Next, by effectively excluding some people from society, we are all deprived of the work, talent, thought, and culture that they should share with the rest of us. That makes all of us worse off. Next, marginalization probably drives crime. This is not just from marginalized people who might fall into petty crime to make ends meet. Next, stress, anxiety, anger, or depression is normal byproducts of being marginalized. We should remember that grievances that remain unaddressed can also stoke fires of civil unrest and violence that could devastate the entire community. Our next question: why do many Christians still fail to demonstrate significant concern? And you may say, why do we still lack concern for the poor and the marginalized? 1. Ignorance. We do not learn what the scriptures say about caring for the social issues of life. 2. Poor theology. Platonic thought has crept into Christianity. Many of us were taught that the soul is all that matters, and we should be indifferent to the physical realm. While the believer is exhorted to live for eternal purpose and not just temporal ones, the body and its needs are never passed off as second rate or something to be ignored. Next, sin. our tendencies toward selfishness and laziness tell us that it is just easier to ignore social issues. We tend to forget the poor, thinking that we cannot do anything about their poverty, or convince ourselves that they are not our problem. 4. Overcompensating. We are afraid that if we give too much attention to the social needs of the world, we will be accused of preaching the social gospel. Just because some secularists and spiritualist-led churches have abandoned the precious truth of Christ does not mean that we attack God's kingdom agenda in retaliation. Our today's main important to share on is how can we address marginalization spiritually, socially, and economically around the world by the key actors, that's the government, faith-based organizations, and non-governmental organizations. Spiritually, number 1, by creating space for the marginalized to tell their story. To tell their stories, we need to stop assuming people in specific groups are all the same and instead ask them where they have been, tracing them and seeking to know them and their need. Even when it feels uncomfortable, hold space for people to be heard, loved, and valued. This is self-explanatory. We need to create space for the vulnerable, for the poor, for the marginalized, even if they are dirty, even if they are smelly, even if they are cheap or young. We need to pay attention to them so that they can heal and live better life. Next, by sharing the good news with the marginalized. If we create space and help meet physical needs and don't share the good news, we have missed the point. As Christians, we have the greatest gift and news to share. We truly love people's souls by sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ. Ask how you can pray for them, and then do it. When we trust Him through our discomfort, God transforms the way we love our marginalized ones. Next, use of the gifts of presence and touch. This is through prayers. We should remember that prayers change things. Prayers heal. Prayers can transform a human being. Prayers can help someone restore life. Next, there is need to help the marginalized find their spiritual needs. For example, they need to know the meaning and purpose of life, that they need to love and feel loved. They need to feel a sense of belonging. They need to feel hope, peace, and gratitude. Next, it is socially. 1. On education, you can bring the most marginalized girls back to school after COVID-19 by setting up resource centers for the young moms, since teenage pregnancy cases have been reportedly coupled with sexual abuse. This will enable them attain their education since their past 2 decades have been marked by outstanding gains in girls' education worldwide, with the number of girls out of school dropping by 79 million. This is very vital. Actually, here in Uganda, they reported on Monday, but surprisingly, in another part of the country, they found one student in the whole school. At around 10 a.m., what comes in our mind? As key actors, as women leaders, we need to do something. We need to help each other. We need to think about resource centers better for these babies who are minor, who are innocent, and to help their mothers complete their education. Next, there is need to intensify community mobilization and support for girls and those who were out of school before the COVID-19 crisis. Back to school campaigns must include targeted messages for communities and caregivers, actively engage them in supporting girls going back to school. Communities must monitor girls' attendance once schools open in different countries through school management committees and parents and teachers associations. Next, the government must change the systems and practices that perpetuate it. This means that the government must do more to see the benefits of society are enjoyed by everyone. That is to say, are resources like water, electricity, and fuel distributed in a fair manner across the country? Do all communities in need of infrastructure invest have the same chance of getting it? Is the government making good education and quality health care equally available to all communities? These are the questions to ask ourselves as key actors. These are the questions to seek answers from. These are the questions to ask government leaders and have to provide answers. We need to advocate for the poor, the marginalized, and the vulnerable ones. Next, on leadership, we also need to have a hard look at how free and fair elections are in our country. Even in democracies, there are certain mechanisms, attitude, or even regulations that make it more difficult than it should be for minority groups to have their say in politics. So we need to work to ensure that our system of choosing our representatives produces a government that is truly representative of the people. This can best be done during the campaigning process, during the voting, the elections, and of course making a follow-up after taking oath. Next, change of mindset. At individual level, there is need to change. We need to change attitudes so that we can create more support for things like feminism and civil rights. For example, we need to teach those things to our children and not hide dark chapters of our history like colonialism or slavery. Next, on health, we need to provide health services to the marginalized and those at risk. For example, near sex workers' places of work, such as clinics within the hotels, frequently visited by sex workers and others. Next, terminal illness can often cause spiritual distress in parents as well as in patients, as well as their families and friends. There is need to use hope tool to instill hope to the marginalized. We need to create a hope strategy, a hope system, a hope tool. We need to design it so that we can take these marginalized people step by step to help them heal, to help them have hope. Without hope, it's like someone who is dying tomorrow, and yet this person may be ill, may be having chronic sickness, but when he can survive, we need to take an action beyond counseling. Next, promotion of programs that can advocate for the quality of care medical treatment for population at risk, i.e., sex workers and others. Train service providers by sex workers on how to provide care in a non-stigmatizing way. This is because sex workers are stigmatized by many police officers, health care providers, the media, and sometimes by the community. as being the spreaders of HIV, AIDS, discouraging them from seeking sexual and reproductive health information services. Further, male and transgender sex workers experience multiple forms of intersecting discrimination because of their sexual orientation and gender identity. This is a serious note. This is a serious issue to talk about, to plan for. We shouldn't chase these people, these sex workers, these male and transgender sex workers away. We need to bring them closer, like how Jesus did. We should remember that Jesus came for the sinners, not for the saints, for the holy ones. We need to share with them. We need to guide them gradually, not in a one-day program. Next, on health, donation of money and supplies is key to the population at risk, i.e. sex workers, and advocacy on those being sexually violated to enable them seek justice. Next, by sharing resources to the marginalized groups of people. Resources in any form can help. Next, seek out marginalized voices and perspectives. Educate your own community. This is very sensitive. We need to put it into practice. We need to find out what is happening in the community, in a nearby place. How are these people living? Which problems they have? Even if you know that they are marginalized, they are minor. What steps should be done so that we can help our brothers and sisters who are marginalized? We need to empower them. We need to instill hope in them. We need to make them feel that they are loved. They need to know why are they living, that they have value. Next, there is need to advocate for the rights of the persons with physical disabilities that are often marginalized. Physically, it may simply be more difficult for them to get out and do things at workplaces, gyms, and other public places. Or they might need expensive care that their government doesn't provide. For this issue, faith-based organizations and NGOs must step in during the planning process before the public facilities are set up. Next, by demanding the release of the incarcerated people, we need to help them, we need to take a step, we need to help them seek and find justice. Economically, by partnering with other organizations that are seeking to meet the physical needs of the marginalized, i.e., volunteering at the homeless shelter, volunteering at a sex trafficking ministry, volunteering at a refugee organization, volunteering at the orphanage home, and very, very many other organizations. Next, by contributing financially to the organizations that are providing physical needs to the marginalized people. This is self-explanatory. Next, by improving employment opportunities for the poor, vulnerable, and marginalized groups through access to skills training on enterprise development, through vacation trainings, and other programs. Next, capacity building by empowering vulnerable groups to start or improve their businesses through the new skills acquired. Next, by creating an enabling environment for entrepreneurship through establishment and strengthening of networks, through the provision of technical assistance, designing and delivering programs that make investments in low capacity. Next, responding to natural disasters by implementing crisis response activities in the affected areas to support disaster recovery. Next, NGOs must mobilize the communities to be self-reliant, especially among the segregated minorities. This assists the communities to discover their own potentials and rely on their own resources. Next, internationally, provision of support by well-developed states or countries to less developed countries is helpful. This is helpful in achieving the goal of eradicating absolute poverty through national and international cooperation. Next, globally, there is need to provide entrepreneur tools and opportunities needed to improve the condition of marginalized countries. Entrepreneurship can directly lift low-income families out of poverty by creating new employment opportunities. In conclusion, the Bible is clear that the church is to advocate for the poor and the marginalized in the world, caring for their needs and pursuing justice on their behalf. We are not to neglect spiritual needs for social ones, nor social needs for the spiritual ones. The two areas of need are not in opposition. On the contrary, Christ demonstrated care for the whole person, body and spirit. As his followers, we must demonstrate the same, not allowing bad theology, laziness, and poor excuses to keep us from addressing the social needs of our community. I thank you all. Once again, I'm Mbabzi Violet.